Hello YouTube, this is Neon, and today the title of my talk is going to be Theresa Knorr. Theresa Knorr was a woman serial killer born Theresa Jimmy Francine Cross in 1946. And she is still alive today. The thing that makes her so interesting to me and so fascinating, and that makes her stand out amongst all serial killers, whether it be women or male serial killers, is her mercilessness, her sadism, her sadism, her propensity to torture. She really is living proof that women can be as cruel, sadistic, and as evil as any man. She's most infamous or most well known for having murdered two of her daughters. She tortured them. One of them she actually had shot. The bullet, I believe, went in her chest and was lodged in her back. This same daughter she had previously stabbed. Both times she was refused, she was not allowed medical attention, although she did allow her siblings to help her, and she actually survived both the stabbing and even the bullet wound, which was a small caliber. She actually survived that with the bullet still in her body. It was kind of a mommy dearest situation where this woman would just torture them for any reason. And ultimately with the first daughter, she had agreed to let her leave and moved to Alaska. They lived in California. But it was under the condition that the bullet would be removed from her back first, so there would be no evidence that Theresa Knorr had shot her. And she gave her some drugs and got her drunk, and then had her son remove the bullet. And this young woman was slowly dying of probably a blood infection as a result of, this outrageous effort, to remove the bullet in their home. She was tied to a table while she slowly died of this infection, or was in the process of slowly dying, because she did not actually die of the infection. By the time she was almost dead, but still alive, they took all of her stuff. Theresa Knorr did. She had her boys take all of her stuff. Along with her, she was tied up and put in a box, something of this nature, dumped on the side of the road. They poured gasoline on her and lit her on fire. She became a Jane Doe. Nobody had a clue who she was. But they do know that she was alive when she died. Apparently she had smoke inhalation in her lungs and soot in her lungs. So she would have died from the infection, but she actually died from being burnt alive. Very, very, very diabolical woman. Her second daughter was tied, chained up in a closet, and starved to death. And likewise, although her daughter did die and was beginning to decompose before they dumped her body near an airport, she had been abusing them for quite some time. She would beat both the boys and girls, but her worst abuse was geared towards her daughters. She had 6 children altogether, and she would make the children hold down whichever daughter or perhaps son was being beaten, so that she could beat them mercilessly. And sometimes she would force, and this was generally for the two daughters that she ultimately would murder, she would beat them and then she would force the other children to beat them. Very, very heartless, very cruel, very sadistic, very diabolical, and a mind that is really evil. Personally, I think Theresa Knorr hears this message. Personally, I think she was channeling the spirit of Hitler, is my opinion of this woman. She suffered from a bizarre condition, many conditions, and not just one. But there's this condition where some parents, it's not the majority of parents, this can be both fathers and sons, fathers and mothers, where they will be jealous of their children, particularly as their children reach puberty, because their children are blossoming into young women and men, and they're getting old. They're getting like this. You see this? They getting bald. They reflecting light off their bald heads. Or in the case of women, obviously these women are not going to be as attractive and as their daughters, and so they get jealous. And that had a lot to do with why Theresa Knorr hated her daughters. She began to reserve her most sadistic abuse for these two daughters when they reached puberty. She was jealous of the attention they would get from men and whatnot. Absolutely outrageous. And of course, that was just one of the things going on in this woman's wicked mind as she continued to mistreat her children. I want to throw in that one of her sons went on to kill a man, a bartender, as he was in the process of robbing the bar. I wanted to throw that in there. And I also want to throw in that she had killed her first husband when she was 16. Even her own sister testified against her that she was very jealous, and she had apparently stated that if she couldn't have him, no woman would. And she shot him in the back, and she was acquitted for the crime. It was deemed self-defense, and a lot of people believe that ultimately the jury acquitted her because she was 16, because she was a female, and even though she shot him in the back, they didn't want to convict a 16-year-old girl of murder while she was pregnant with her deceased husband's child. She was actually pregnant with his child during the trial. So now many people really do believe that she didn't just kill 2 people, that she killed 3 people, but got away with one of those murders. Her daughter ultimately, her third daughter ultimately did report her. She wasn't believed. The psychiatric community didn't believe her. They thought that she made all this up. Law enforcement didn't believe her. Eventually, her youngest daughter, who by this time was also an adult, contacted America's Most Wanted. She didn't know, well, who do I tell, that this woman, this female progenitor, right? Her female progenitor, her biological mother, had murdered 2 of her sisters in this brutal and horrible and merciless, inhumane and inhuman way. And America's Most Wanted put her in contact with people that did take her seriously, and both daughters, who were classified as Jane Doe, were proven to be this young woman's sisters and victims of her female progenitor, biological mother. It's funny because when the third daughter reached puberty, she began to be merciless towards her. And this daughter, I'm not sure if she was more comparable in size to the boys. I don't know what, but at 15 she went to go fist fight her mother and let her mother know that if you try to mistreat me, I will throw down with you. I will throw down with you. And when she went to fist fight her mother, who was abusing her, her brothers didn't try to stop her. I don't know if they were intimidated by her too, but they basically told her to stop. She put her foot down and said, "You're not going to murder me." Sadly, this young woman did die of a heart attack. Theresa Knorr kind of became infamous in that she's been covered by numerous documentaries. She is the first woman who, in I think it's an investigation Discovery Channel series called The Most Evil. She's the first woman to rank, along with a small percentage of male serial killers, as the most evil, meaning that she, just by the fact that she forced one of her daughters into prostitution, that she abused her victims in every way possible, tortured, bound, gagged, tortured them over long periods of time, sexually abused them. She did everything evil that you could do to an innocent victim. So she is unique in that respect. Women serial killers kill loved ones and intimates. Male serial killers kill strangers. That's most common, although there's exceptions. So she was not an exception in that respect. She killed her daughters. Those are her loved ones. Women most commonly use poison, women serial killers, but they do kill. Women serial killers kill in many different ways. She's kind of unique in that she killed literally through torture. Sinister and evil torture. So she's kind of unique in that respect as well. But specifically, she's unique just because she was as evil as any guy. She was as evil as any guy. The youngest daughter did wind up dying of a heart attack. I thought it was at the age of 32. Wikipedia says that it was at the age of 41. In one particular documentary that I saw about this, at this point the youngest daughter was alive and was being interviewed as part of the documentary, and she said that what's going to happen to me? You know, how am I going to even get through life having survived everything I've seen and gone through? And then by the end of the documentary, they let the viewer know that she had actually died of a heart attack. So I believe that Theresa Knorr is guilty of killing this daughter as well, in my opinion. When the youngest daughter was found to be telling the truth, Theresa Knorr, the one son that she actually, I guess, did love or care for, if that's even possible in her evil mind, when she found out that he was going to testify against her, she ultimately did confess to the crimes. I think there was the impression she was sort of doing it so that her son's involvement would be minimized, even though her sons were only guilty sort of after the fact. She was the one who murdered them, and they were sort of under the orders of their mother. But more than anything, she confessed to the murders to save her ass from getting the death penalty, which she would have gotten. She ended up getting 2 life sentences. It pisses me off that people would get life sentences and can still get out. That this woman would possibly qualify for parole in 2027. That pisses me off. However, she's 71 now. She would be 81 by the time she is paroled. Hopefully she doesn't get to 81. Okay, I'm angry. I hate serial killers. They're fascinating and they're horrifying, but they piss me off. So if she does somehow miraculously get paroled at 81, we know that in all likelihood she won't be able to hurt anybody else. So that's really what I find the most compelling about this particular serial killer. The most interesting aspects of this woman's life. She was married numerous times. She was jealous. None of her marriages worked. And, you know, in many relationships she cheated, or she would leave the kids with her new husband so that she'd go out and party, and then she'd be sleeping with other men and stuff. She's just not a good person. So anyway, if you liked this video, you found it informative, please like, subscribe to my channel, share this video, make a comment, watch a commercial, and those wonderful things. Thank you. Best wishes.